Welcome to the newest episode of Beyond the Fame with Jason Fraley. I'm your host, Jason Fraley, picking the brains of the top filmmakers, musicians, and artists of our time. This weekend marks the 15th anniversary of Frank Caliendo's Frank TV, premiering on November 20th, 2007. I spoke to Caliendo in 2018 when he performed at the DC Improv, sharing his hilarious impersonations of Donald Trump, Barack Obama, George W. Bush, Bill Clinton, Charles Barkley, John Gruden, and the late John Madden. Thanks so much for taking the time to join us here today.
Absolutely.
This is an interesting time to be coming and doing comedy in D.C. As the different presidents change, a guy like you has to probably come up with a new impersonation all the time. How long did it take you to master that one, or did you already have a Trump one around since he was already a pop culture figure?
I've been doing a Trump one for quite some time, so it was very easy. It was simple. It was tremendous. It was ready to go. And it's right now, let me just say this, Jason, as great as you are, and you are a great guy, let me say this. This is probably the number one rated segment you'll ever do.
And it airs in China. Are you? How would Donald Trump describe the Caliendo show? Does he even know who Frank is?
Well, you know, we used to do a lot together. Caliendo and I, we used to build a lot of buildings. I would build the buildings. He would walk around them. That's just what he did. He was a security guard. I don't know. I actually did a sketch with him years ago. I did a sketch with him when I was at Fox on the pregame show.
Yeah,
we did Donald Trump running for commissioner of the NFL, and one of the jokes was, I've decided to run for president, and then I've decided to not run for president, and I've decided to not run for president. And now I'm not running for president. I'm not sure how many knots that was, but a sailor could tie it and keep a boat to the dock. That's how great it is.
Nice. I assume we'll probably hear other previous presidents, too. Are we going to have any George W.?
Well, there's always a little bit about it, you know. Got a little, I don't know what that was. That was me. I was just making people cough. I have that kind of power, like Harry Potter. One of the things I talk about is, like, when you're a president, people ask you difficult questions. You have to know what's going on in the world. You have advisors and stuff giving you all sorts of information. Mm-hmm. When you're a former president, the questions they ask you, are simple. They let you knock them out of the park. They ask you things like, what have you been doing since you've been president? And with George W. Bush, that's always great because you never know what he's going to say. They're like, what have you been doing since you've been president? Well, I'm not really sure. I guess I've been working on my Facebook page. I've been tweetering and playing some Pokemon Go.
I swear, man, if you close your eyes and listen to it sounds like I'm talking to George W. Bush right now. It's incredible.
It's amazing. It's what were we talking about?
Do we have, I know it's sort of a conference call. Can we also buzz in Barack Obama at the moment?
Let me be clear. When you do the Barack Obama impression, you talk slow at the beginning and speed up at the end. And in the pauses, I can talk, and then we get back to me because that's what everything's about.
It's amazing you can juggle them like that. Is there room for Bill Clinton, too?
You bet there is. I'm just busy right now.
That's all. How do you shift so fast like that? Do you ever find them creeping into each other? You know,
Jason, it's just part of being brilliant. That's all I can. I grew up loving Robin Williams and Jonathan Winters and the way they would switch between characters and create scenes.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I saw that and thought, well, I think I could do that. And it's just, once you set them to muscle memory, at least when I do, it just becomes you can go from voice to voice. So if we're doing a George W. Bush going into a Donald Trump and then a Morgan Freeman, we go backstage to Madden and tell you what, man, John Gruden right here. That's just, I can just somehow be able to go from those. I can see each person as I'm saying them too. So.
Wow, that's amazing. That's crazy muscle memory.
Keep going. Tell me more.
Yeah.
I'm great.
You're amazing, sir.
Tremendous. That's the other thing Donald Trump could do. He describes the word with a word. He just makes it an adverb after it. You know, like That's tremendously tremendous.
I love it. Are you? You mentioned the Fox NFL Sunday. I think that's when I and most people probably, at least nationwide, discovered you. And I think right before you was Kimmel, right? Yeah, they have a good track record of cranking them out.
Yeah.
Just memories of working on that show. Did those? Because you guys, I feel like there was always that banter where you were ragging on Terry or Howard. But was there? I assume you guys were really close off screen, even though on screen you were ragging on him.
Can't stand any of them. No, they're great. Terry, I mean, you usually got one joke per guy.
Yeah.
And it better hit, otherwise it's a waste of time. So if you try to do too much about one guy, they'd start to feel like, well, what are you doing? Unless there was a reason for it that week. So the problem with that, the most difficult thing about that segment is you're going into a sports audience every week, right?
Right.
And you have to do comedy. It's the only thing in the show that's not organic to, comedy just happening. This is going to be the funny part,
right,
supposedly. Right. Sometimes it would be a horrific train wreck. You never knew. But if there wasn't a story going on in the NFL or something that was too touchy, which there could be, then it was just time to make fun of the guy. So. They were always good about it. And, Kimmel would just needle them and rip them really hard. And they were happy when it was me because I was more cherubic and silly.
Yeah, exactly. Ooh, cherubic. That was good.
Right, cherubic. And a Rubik's Cube is the number one Rubik's Cube because it's bigger and it's fluffier. And you can have a lot more fun with it.
Were you a big football guy going into that show, or did you have to kind of study up? I know you had to study up each week what was going on so you could write the material for that. So that must have been a new challenge, too, than the usual stand-up.
Yeah, I mean, that's the most difficult part of it is, if there's nothing going on, it's difficult. But, yeah, I started out being a casual football fan and had to become more of a football fan for it because you really had to know what was going on.
Yeah, absolutely. But your sports acumen, sir, brought us a couple other favorites that you do. Is Mike Ditka around?
Yeah, you got to chew gum first, and then you get done chewing the gum, then I insult you. That's basically all there is to Ditka.
I think my favorite sports one is Charles Barkley because you can go.
Well, that's because it's the best, not just the best impression ever, the best guy ever.
I love that when he had, he's so honest. I love Charles because that's the only reason, like news stations will go to Charles Barkley because he's the only guy willing to tell the truth about everything he really thinks.
Right, just the most recent election they were tossing to him, the Roy Moore one, I think. Yeah,
it's amazing, but he'll get himself into quote-unquote trouble for a minute. He gets out of it because he's Teflon, but even Bill Clinton's like, how'd he do that? But what Charles Barkley with the Draymond Green is like, I want to punch Draymond Green in the face. Everybody got upset about that. So in rare Charles Barkley form, I guess, he apologized, but his apology was basically this: I apologize for Draymond Green having such a punchable face.
It's like a backhanded
apology.
Totally. I love it.
I still punch him. I just didn't want everybody to see it.
Yeah. Well, we want to thank you for keeping John Madden in our living rooms because he retired and we miss him. But because of you, we still get to hear him all the time.
You think of those things and the things you could do and the things you don't do, and boom. I mean, that's what.
He's not even in the video game anymore. His own video with his name on it. They couldn't take his name off the game because it sold so many copies. Like they tried, it was just branded that. If they went to the EA Sports football, nobody would care. They just call it Madden. So they bought him out. They bought his name out, and he's not even in it anymore. How crazy is that?
That is actually, that's a legacy right there. All right.
There you go.
Well, you've been more than generous with your time. Before we go, I guess in closing, how would Madden or Gruden pick whoever you want to do? How would they describe going on the air with WTOP, the top-rated station in DC? How would they describe this awesome opportunity that you're having right now?
I tell you what, man, this is some of the best time I've ever had in my entire life. I used to work at Hooters, man, cooking fries. That was nothing compared to this. I coached the Oakland Raiders, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the Oakland Raiders again. In the meantime, I worked at Monday Night Football at ESPN, and nothing has been better than talking to you on the WhatsApp.
We might have to change it to WhatsApp just because of you. Hey, thank you so much for joining us. Everybody, come out at the DC Improv. Hilarious Frank Caliendo. I've seen you multiple times, and you're always hilarious. Everybody, come see him. Thank you so much.
Thanks, man.
Thanks so much for listening to Beyond the Fame with Jason Fraley. Our theme music is Scott Buckley's Clarion. Remember to give us a 5-star rating if you like what you hear. We'll see you next time.
Explain your DNA on 10 cases, man.
You're inside the police interrogation room with the alleged Potomac River rapist.
I'm not guilty on any of this stuff.
So calm, so reasonable. Could this be the man who terrorized women for 9 years before murdering a brilliant scientist 2 decades ago? Experience one of the most fascinating true crime podcasts available. Join crime reporter Paul Wagner for Unknown Subject, Season 3 of WTOP's American Nightmare series. Search American Nightmare Podcast on all podcast platforms.
I wanted to take a second to tell you about an app I really enjoy. Living in the DC area is great, and Podcast DC gathers all of the local shows that I like all in one local app. Health, sports, local news, politics, and so much more. Podcast DC is the new local app with hundreds of DC area podcasts to choose from. I can earn exciting rewards just for listening and share the podcasts I love instantly. Available in the App Store or in Google Play, listen local with Podcast DC.